What's going on, everybody? Today is Friday, December 26th, the day after Christmas, and we are going to talk about the NBA. Obviously, going to go through the Christmas Day slate, which I will say was pretty good. There were some pretty good games. Talk about those matchups. 10 teams played on Christmas Day. And then, obviously, right now, there are a few games going on. We'll kind of check in on where the NBA is at right now. And what teams are surprising us and what teams are disappointing us as we take a look at those standings. So first things first, right to it. Christmas Day started off in New York City with the Knicks hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now the Cavs looked like they had this game early. They were up, by double digits a lot of the times in the first half. But then the Knicks kind of started making the run. Tyler Kolek played great for the Knicks. Of course, Jalen Brunson did Jalen Brunson things. It's really incredible when you watch Brunson at his size, what he's able to do and how he's able to take over the game. He finished with 34. Towards the end, when the game started to slip away, the only thing kind of keeping the Cavs semi-glued to the Knicks was Donovan Mitchell. The dude is, I know he gets a lot of, slack for not ever making a conference, conference series or Eastern Conference Finals or even Western Conference Finals or anything like that. But I find it really hard to pin that on him. I think the guy always shows up, when it's a big game, he's always, plays well. And obviously I'm not just going to completely, have him get off the hook. But at the same time, it takes a team to get that far in the playoffs. And Donovan Mitchell, if anything, his defense was the issue in Utah when those teams didn't really get that far. And now with Cleveland, I think he's matured. I think he's better defensively than he used to be. But, last year they just, the Pacers gave it to them and the Pacers had a magical run. We'll see what they do this year. They're not off to a good start. The players around him, I mean, to be honest, he's the only one on this Cavaliers team that seems to be having a good season individually. So we'll see where they get to. But the Knicks, they look great. I mean, and we expected this. A lot of people thought the Knicks would be the number one seed in the East, and it looks like that's where they're, starting to push. Obviously, it's them and Detroit right now kind of battling it out, but the Knicks get a nice win on Christmas, closer than probably most Knicks fans would have wanted, but they still got their win. And, I mean, it was, reliable Brunson there at the end, just played phenomenal. All right, I said this before Christmas Day that this was the game I was looking at the most. And it didn't end up being the best game of the day because the Spurs won 117-102 against the Thunder. But I am telling you, and like I said, if the Spurs win this game, I mean, that is 3 in a row against the Thunder in a span of almost 1 week. One in a neutral site here in Vegas for the in-season tournament. Another at home where the Spurs won 130-110. And another one on the road in Oklahoma City on Christmas Day, where it's a big game. All eyes are watching. The Thunder having lost 2 in a row to the Spurs are like, all right, we got to send a message, I would have thought. And they just could not do it. And I don't think it's a matter of not taking the Spurs seriously. I don't think it's a matter of, just bad luck or injuries, because both of these teams are almost at full strength. If anything, you can make the case that the Spurs are the ones actually restricting the minutes on Wembanyama right now. And the fact that the Spurs are kind of, it's still close enough to where I don't want to say dominating, but they look like the better team. If you knew nothing about these teams and you just watched them play all these 3 games, the Spurs are the better team. They really are. And good for SGA, and it's what I've loved about him. He's straight up, and he said it in his post-game presser. He said, if you get beat by a team 3 times in a row, then that usually means you're not the better team. And good for him for at least acknowledging that and realizing that. And that is the reality that they're going to need to have to figure out a way to beat the Spurs team if they ended up playing them in the playoffs. Because at this point, the first game in the in-season tournament, I was thinking to myself, all right, if the Spurs can win this, it'll give them some confidence that they can hang with the Thunder. Then they got that win. Then they hosted the Thunder a few days ago. And I was like, if they can get this win, then we're really talking where the Spurs are going to really feel themselves and be like, all right, we can beat this team. But, it might be a little bit of, home team bias for the Spurs, where they might be like, yeah, we can beat them. And then the playoffs come around and it's a completely different game. And, the smart basketball people are going to say that. But now when you beat them on the road on Christmas Day by 15, now I think even the people that watch basketball all the time are like, hold on a minute. Maybe we should be talking about, can the Thunder beat the Spurs? Because the Spurs team looks good. So again, something to watch at this point. again, OKC is 26-5 on the season. 3 of those losses are to the Spurs. And I almost, like I said, I don't think it's injuries. I don't think it's luck. I think it's just might be a matchup thing. I don't even think it's, I mean, maybe it's coaching, and maybe that's what we'll figure out if they meet up in a playoff series. I don't expect it to be a Spurs sweep in the playoffs, but if you told me right now the Spurs will beat the Thunder in 6 games in the playoffs, I kind of am starting to believe that. So we'll see how that goes. The next game was Warriors-Mavericks. The Warriors were at home, and I said this when previewing these games. It's kind of a make-or-break moment for them. They had all the drama with Draymond. You know, they were 500. And I thought if this started with this game, they started going downhill and they went 0-5 the next 5 games. Like, it could be, you know, time to sell off, you know, the Draymond Greens, and, you know, you're going to trade Kuminga and all that kind of stuff, and maybe even put Jimmy Butler in the trade if you have to. It's 1 win. It is what it is. Mavericks have been playing as of late, but the headline out of this is Anthony Davis gets hurt again. And, you know, at a time where I think that the Mavericks are trying to feel themselves out, like, should we trade him, or do we have something here where we can make a push for the playoffs? Well, that kind of sucks for them now, because now you got to wait on that, and time's running out. We're almost into January. The trade deadline is about a little over a month away, and the Mavericks going to figure out which direction they want to go. Do they keep Anthony Davis, or do they trade him? And if the answer is to trade him, well, he just lost a little bit more trade value now because he's injured. And we'll see how long he's out for, but it's a growing injury, it looks like. And those aren't usually a day-to-day thing. So we'll see. The next game was the Rockets at Lakers, much anticipated. The Lakers obviously always get a little bit of extra love, maybe, because it's LA and it's the Lakers. But going into this game, everyone that knows basketball knows the Rockets are the better team. The Lakers have their flaws, and they all showed up in this one. I mean, the Rockets won 119-96. JJ Redick didn't lose his temper, but in the presser afterwards really called out his team, and he straight up said Saturday's practice is going to get ugly. You know, I'm not doing this for another 53 games, he said. So he's angry, and I like that. To be honest, JJ Redick has really grown as a coach on me, because I'm all about, you know, holding your guys accountable, including if it's the main stars, and you just got to call them out and call it like it is. And if they can't handle it, then it's on them, because as a coach, when you care about players and when you care about people, essentially, in my opinion, you need to give them the harsh truth all the time, and they need to be wanting to get that from you to be the best that they can be. All right, and then we closed off with the game of the night, which was the Nuggets hosting the Timberwolves. You knew this would be a good game just because they kind of have a little bit of a rivalry. It's not like an ugly rivalry like Dillon Brooks and LeBron James type. It's a good rivalry where there's mutual respect. I think Jokic, I mean, he said it in the post-game interview. You know, I think he gives Anthony Edwards his flowers when it's due. And Anthony Edwards has flat out said Jokic is the best player in the NBA. And so he definitely gives him his flowers. And well, after this one, I think both things are true. And I think both things will be said. I mean, Anthony Edwards calling Jokic the best player in the league, I think he's right. Jokic finished with a 56-point triple-double, 16 rebounds, and 15 assists. If that doesn't scream out MVP, I don't know what will this season. The Nuggets were missing 3 starters. And, I mean, realistically, they just about had this game in regulation. They were up by a good amount there towards the end. The Wolves rallied back, and then even with 3 seconds left, they were up 3, and it took a miracle Anthony Edwards clutch three-pointer from the corner, which was a hell of a shot, and Jokic pointed it out and said Anthony Edwards made an incredible shot in the corner to send this game into overtime. And then in overtime, the Wolves started off with a 9-0 run. They were up by 9 in overtime, and Jokic just did Jokic things. I think he must have had probably 10 points from that point on, because he hit for sure 2 threes and then was making free throws and all that. So the Nuggets, 142-138. They are winning despite 3 starters being out. And honestly, it gets to the point where I almost feel bad for these Western Conference contenders, because if you gave me the Thunder, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Wolves, and the Nuggets, I would pick any of those 5 teams to represent the Eastern Conference in the finals if they were in the East. That's how, to me, the disparity is. Like, any of the 5 teams I just named, those Western Conference contenders, if you put them in the Eastern Conference, I think they're beating the Pistons or the Knicks in a 7-game series and getting to the finals. So just tough. That Western Conference is tough. So, there's games going on right now. We'll take a look at the standings. Surprising teams to me, the biggest surprise in the East. I don't even want to really say it's a surprise because I did think that they would be battling and they're just kind of a tough DNA team. Is the Boston Celtics. They're 18-11 without their best player. Jason Tatum hasn't played all season, and they're missing a lot from last year. And for them to be in the third spot in the East, I think speaks volumes of their culture, their DNA, how hard they play, Coach Mazzulla and how he coaches that team up. And when they get Tatum back, I mean, will you be surprised if they knock off the Pistons or the Knicks? I mean, listen, the Celtics team is kind of my sleeper because I think that if they get Jason Tatum back not even in February, he could come back in March and give him 1 month to kind of get his groove back. Then you get to the playoffs. I mean, right now, as this team's constructed, if they played the Orlando Magic, I would probably pick the Celtics. So I'm just saying, even if Tatum, for whatever reason, let's just in a hypothetical, didn't even play the first round, I think the Celtics team, the way they're playing right now, could get through a first round in the playoffs if they finished with home court advantage. So they're in a really quietly nice position, I think, to really turn it on down the stretch. And I mean, again, they're 5.5 behind the first place Pistons. And, I don't think they're going to catch them. But, when Tatum comes back, this is a much better team already. So we'll see. So that's my surprise positive team in the East. Surprised negatively, honestly, it's probably the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're 17-15. They're in 7th right now in the East. And a lot of people thought they would be contending to be the number 1 seed in the East like they were last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with injuries. So I'm kind of excusing them a little bit. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that last year they had such a good regular season to then just flame out to the Indiana Pacers was kind of tough. And so, I almost feel like they're kind of just playing for the playoffs, but you can't have that mindset and cost yourself home court. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with injuries. An honorable mention here, I'll put the Magic because they're 17-13, but same thing. I mean, Suggs is out now. Wagner's been out for a while. So Magic always seems to be dealing with injuries. Banchero was out for a little bit. So those two teams that are sitting in 6th and 7th in the East right now, I'm kind of, keeping my eye on because I'm not really, surprised with where they're at. I am surprised with where they're at. I'm not really happy with where they're at if I'm judging them based on what my preseason, estimation was of where they'll be. And in the Western Conference, the surprise has to be the Spurs. They're 2nd in the West, 23-7. We knew they would make a jump. We knew they would be better than last year. But now we're starting to talk, can they win the Western Conference? Can they win the NBA Finals this season? That is not where I thought they'd be. They missed the playoffs last year. So for me, I was like, if they can sneak into a top 6 seed, that'd be great for them. Progress, But now we're talking, possible championship team. Like, that's crazy. And they're only 2.5 back of the OKC Thunder, who now they own the tiebreaker against. And I think that just, for a young team like that, is going to give them so much confidence now. And again, I mean, Wemby didn't even play that much. And that's what's been crazy. I mean, I'm going to look at that box score to see how many total minutes Wembanyama ended up playing. But, I mean, he played 26 minutes. So he did play a good amount, but he had 19 points and 11 rebounds. It's not like he went off. Again, he was a plus 13, though. The Thunder really have a tough time. He was the best, second best plus minus, third best plus minus for the Spurs. I mean, their second best plus minus is Dylan Harper. He's a rookie who played 20 minutes and had 12 points. Like, they're deep team. And yeah, I just think they have the Thunder's number, and the Thunder are going to have to figure that out. And now the only time they really can do that is come playoff time. So, good for the Spurs, man. Happy for that organization. The fact that they're actually, improved this much. And my biggest disappointment in the Western Conference, without a doubt, it's got to be the LA Clippers. They're 8-21. And, they just don't really have an excuse, in my opinion. This is their team. That, John Collins is playing right now. Ivica Zubac got hurt, but he got hurt a couple games ago. They were pretty bad before that. So just with so many vets, I thought they'd be better. And it just seems like the vets just don't have a passion or, that oomph to give it their all. And you got these young and up and coming teams that are just really just trying harder, and so that's tough for the Clippers. I don't see them getting out of this hole. They're in the second apron. They can't even really get out of their situation right now or make trades or anything like that. Honorable mention for a positive surprise is the Phoenix Suns, because if the season ended today, they'd be in the in-season tournament, in the play-in tournament. They're sitting at 7th right now at 16-13, and people their over-under was like 30 for the year. People thought they were going to be so bad and atrocious, and good for them. This was one of those addition by subtraction, I think, when they got rid of Bradley Beal and got rid of Kevin Durant, and they just went, you know what, Devin Booker, you and some hungry guys will give you guys a fresh start, low expectations, go all out, and they've been playing good ball. So that's where we're at right now with the NBA. I'll check back in, obviously, as the season starts going on. Football is about to get into the playoffs soon, so that's super exciting. But you guys have a happy new year. I'll probably do another pod after the new year, and we will, keep talking sports and keep going, seeing where the NBA is at then. Talking football, playoffs, can't wait. Obviously, the NFL playoffs is nothing like it. One game, that's it, all the pressure. So I'm very excited for that. And so you guys enjoy. Have a happy new year.